Hey guys, on today's episode, we're going to get our 1969 F-350 back on the road, so stick around. So this is our 1969 F-350 that we picked up about a month or so ago. Haven't really done much with it. I have, however, got it running, be it poorly, but it is running. Thought I would kind of show you around with it. My plans are to get this thing roadworthy and just be a just a parts runner driver, kind of a haul trash off, that kind of truck. It has a 360 in it, and the 360 seems to have a dead hole. Right here you can see that exhaust manifold's black right here. Hasn't burned off all the crap off of it. I have our 352 that I pulled out of our 67 F100 that I made into our Ultimate Highboy, and it was a good running 352, so I might yank this 360 out and put that 352 in here and get this thing just running and driving. Another neat thing, I think this is a Ford factory installed grill guard. I saw another truck that had a grill guard similar to this, and it was on the Marty report that this was installed at the factory. It has these supports that go down to the frame right here. Kind of neat. But anyway, I got this thing running. I guess see if I can get it fire up and show you guys how the 360 is running. So yeah, it's not running too great. I checked the compression on that one hole, number one, and it had 0 compression, and I pumped some oil in it, and that brought it up to 100. So I'm guessing that the rings are shot on it, or the cylinder walls are wore out, or something along those lines. It was probably missing for a while, and then the fuel washed the walls down and wore out that hole. So, but since I got that other engine, I think we'll just yank this one out of there and throw that other one in it and keep rolling trucking. So it's just kind of just gonna be a drive around work truck kind of a deal. I do need to find some 12/16/5 tires for these. There's a few companies that make some, and they're kind of expensive. On trucks that don't leave the farm, we usually just put skid steer tires on these on this, but wouldn't mind driving this one on the road a little bit, so find some DOT tires for it. So yeah, we'll get this thing in the shop and get this 360 yanked out of here and see what we got. Well guys, I thought I would get a driving video of our 79 here before I put the engine in it, so you kind of get an idea of what we're working with. Thought I would do it before and after with it, so you can see what difference the new engine made. This one's obviously not running very good. I think it has some valve train issues and a dead cylinder. .456 gears in the back, so first gear is really slow. If you lug it very hard, it starts cutting out. And it's backfiring a lot. doesn't like fourth gear. It runs, but only barely. I think that's enough to get the point across. It's got a dead hole, backfiring a lot, cutting out when you lug it. Some of that's timing, some of that's probably the valves, some of that's a bad piston, but you get the idea. That's why I'm putting the 352 in it. Well, I got my 352 out of storage. This is the 352 that originally came in the 67 F-100 that we started with for our Ultimate Highboy project. If you remember that back several months ago, our Ultimate Highboy project, it started out as a 67 F-100 with a 352. This is that 352. It was running good, so I'm going to put that in our 68 with our 360 has a dead hole. Since I have this good running engine, might as well use it. I pulled the 3-speed off of it, and I got the passenger side manifold, all the bolts came out, so I'm putting new gaskets in the manifolds. The driver's side one was leaking. These FEs are real bad about the bolts getting seized up in them. You can see here I have 2 on the driver's side that didn't want to come out, but I'm going to let them soak overnight and probably use some heat tomorrow and see if they'll come out. But I'm going to put gaskets in it. Got to do freeze plugs on it because some freeze plugs are leaking. Put a water pump on it because I pulled the water pump off of it for something else. And going to do some just tune-up stuff like spark plugs and new wires and stuff. Going to check out the clutches. I think this is a smaller clutch for this 3-speed. That 1 ton and have a bigger clutch, 11-inch clutch. I think it's going out, so I gotta get that transmission out and see what I got to work with there before I order parts for that stuff. But maybe a new clutch, definitely a new throwout bearing, and that carburetor was working good when it was in there, so I think we're just gonna leave it on there and throw it in the truck. But that's the engine right there, and first off we got to get those manifolds off and the freeze plugs. So that's what we're gonna be working on. Well, I got the old 360 out of the truck here. It wasn't too bad. The clutch is totally shot, so definitely not going to be using that one. I think we're going to end up just using this one here. I think it's pretty good shape, just on a half-ton truck, so it didn't get used very much. I have to replace the rag joint here on the steering. This one's all blown out. Do a little bit of cleanup on this thing. But I have to get the exhaust manifold off of this one to put on this one, because they're different, and I want the Y pipe to fit for that one. So I got to pull a few things off of this engine and get this engine ready to go in there. So hopefully my parts will show up here pretty quick, and I'll get that thing stuffed in there. It shouldn't take long at all once I have all the parts and get them all here. But I gotta do that rag joint and stuff while the engine's out, so it'd be easier. So guess we'll start doing that. Here I'm transferring the parts off my old engine, the stuff I need for this one, like the water pump. I had to put this on that other engine because it was really bad whenever I first started to get it running. But water pump, new thermostat, freeze plugs, and all that kind of stuff, spark plugs. But I wanted to take a note on these old Motorcraft Autolite 2 barrels that are in these old trucks. The accelerator pump is always leaking on these things. If they've been sitting for any period of time, they dry out and they rot, and then they leak and drip fuel. So like, I go through these things all the time, and actually this one has been robbed off of here from back when I was driving this truck, or after I was driving this truck. I needed it for something else, and I robbed it off here. So I always get these things, accelerator pumps. They're just, seems like every single truck we get, the accelerator pump's leaking on it. But just wanted to point that out. If you get one of these old trucks, that's something to keep an eye out for. We got our 352 all ready to go going back in the truck. Got new exhaust manifold gaskets, new spark plugs. I have new wires for it. They're just not on here yet. Got a new throwout bearing in here. Got the bell housing bolted on. New thermostat, gaskets, new water pump gaskets. I put Petronix points eliminator igniter system on here. I'm gonna give that a shot. This is the first time I've dealt with that, but got that installed in place of the points. And also got a new coil for it. But it's ready to go in the truck. Got the truck all ready to accept it. And that's our next step. We'll be stabbing the engine in. So hopefully we'll be firing it up before too long. Well, we got the engine in the truck, got the transmission and everything all lined up. The spline on the input shaft of the transmission. You got to get lined up with your clutch and get your pilot bearing and everything in there. These are a little bit tricky because the throwout bearing is on the clutch fork is just kind of hanging in the bell housing, and it's a little tricky. You got to make sure that that gets over the input shaft of the transmission. It doesn't fall out of place because it's pretty easy to do. It's just held on by a wire clip, and if you bump it wrong, it can pop out of there. But once you get that in there, it's not bad. Got everything hooked up underneath the truck, exhaust and everything, starters in, motor mount bolts are in, and now it's time to move on to the top stuff. I'll get everything buttoned up here, then we'll see if this thing will start. Well, I got the battery hooked up. I thought I would show you here. I'm putting on a Petronix points eliminator system, just a igniter 1, the simple one, and I put a Petronix flamethrower coil on here as well. So I'm gonna have to add the ignition wire here that usually goes to your coil on your point system. There's a resistor wire under the dash, and it's only 6 volts. And this system calls for a 12 volt signal to the Petronix unit, so I have to find the ignition wire under the dash here. And if you see this wire right here, it'll say do not cut or splice on it, and I think it's this one right here. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell in the camera. I think it's that one right there, but I know that's the ignition wire for sure. I got to track down where that ends, so it's 12 volts all the way, because that wire reduces it to 6 volts for your point system. So I got to get that sorted out before it'll start, but I got the battery hooked up so I can test voltages and stuff. So I thought I would see if it cranks and see how it sounds. So let's see how it goes. That sounds pretty good. Pretty healthy, smooth crank. Of course, I know this engine was a good running engine because it came out of a truck that I pulled it out of the truck. But if you have something that you're not sure about, and it's cranking it and it has a tight spot, or it slows down at one point when you're cranking it, or it speeds up at one point. If it slows down, that could be a tight hole, or a bent valve, or a bent push rod, or something where the valve isn't opening, a stuck valve, so it's doing extra compression. Or it could be a bad cylinder wall and the piston's sticking. Or if it's a fast spot, that could be low compression on a cylinder. But anyway, this is a nice smooth crank, so it should be a good healthy engine. And I'll plug away on that ignition system, and then all it will need is some fuel, and we'll see if it'll fire up. Well, what I did here is I just spliced a 12 volt wire to the ignition wire after the resistor wire, so there's a solid 12 volt going to the coil and to run our ignition system. And I gave her a shot and it works, so here we go. It's running pretty good. So yeah, like I said earlier, I already knew this was a good engine, but it's nice to hear it running good after it's been sitting for a while. So I have new spark plugs. I have some new spark plugs here. Not spark plug wires. There is new spark plugs in here, but I just threw that old cap on there just to test everything just right quick to make sure everything's going to work. But I got to change the spark plug wires and finish putting everything in here and fill it with water so we can run it for real. But yeah, this thing's going together pretty easy. So we'll get everything buttoned back up and we'll go take it for a test drive. there you have it, guys. We have a running engine. Got water put in it, and it's running pretty good. Pretty happy with it for the way it turned out, the way it's running and idling so far. So I'll get this thing cleaned off, and we'll go take it out and see how it drives, and hopefully we improved it some. Well, here it is, guys. I got it out of the shop and got it running a little bit better, so let's take it out and see how it does. Now remember, this truck has 456 gears, so it's like really slow. So take off in second gear for sure. Already tell it's doing a lot better. Running smoother for sure. Quieter that I fixed those exhaust manifold gaskets. Here we're going, just going 10 miles an hour, and I'm already in third gear. This is probably going to be about a 45 to 50 mile an hour outfit, but for what I'm going to do with it, it'll be just fine. Fourth gear at 20. It lugs a lot better. Before it would jump and hop whenever you tried to lug it. Some of that could have been the points. Still need to work on the brakes though. They work, but just barely. Probably just need to be bled or something. Second gear start there. Takes off in second gear, no problem. Third gear. Yeah, I think the engine's running pretty good. It's got lots of power. It doesn't mind being lugged. It's a lot of big improvement from the previous setup and how it was running. Pulls this little hill here in fourth gear, no problem. Yeah, I think this is you probably drive around in fourth gear all the time with this truck. Probably even slow it down to take a corner. You probably don't even have to downshift. It'll be good for out here on the farm. I'm planning on I mow a couple yards for some people in the summertime, and got a Kubota tractor I mow with. And usually have to hook up to a trailer and haul it to where I'm mowing, but I'm thinking about rigging up some ramps on the back of this flatbed to where I can just load that Kubota tractor on the back of this thing. So it'll be a lot simpler just to load it on the back of a truck instead of having to hook up a big trailer, because I don't have any small trailers that fit the Kubota. But it shouldn't be too hard to make some ramps. The clutch is a lot better too. That old clutch was wore out. Just plumb shot. This one's doing a lot better. I had to adjust the linkage a bunch, like 3/4 of an inch. That's probably just for the wore out clutch. So it's nice to have a good clutch in it too. Man, this thing's driving awful good. Pretty happy with the way it turned out. Anyway, guys, that's the end of this episode. I want to thank you for tuning in and sticking with me for this whole project. I thought it'd be neat to have a truck on here. We do start to finish in one episode. You know, we did an engine swap on this. This was just direct in and out, FE to FE, so it didn't have to do any custom work or anything like that. So that helps out a lot. And it was just kind of a bare bones budget, kind of a rebuild. And the truck turned out all right. So thanks for watching, everyone, and be sure to subscribe. And see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.